The sun was dropping behind the tree line when Evan first entered the forest, a place most locals avoided after sunset because of the strange stories passed around like folk tales. His parents called them sleepover fables, but Evan had always been drawn to unexplained things, especially after his older brother vanished near the same woods 3 years ago. He didn't come to play or explore. He came searching for a truth no one wanted to acknowledge, carrying only a flashlight, his late brother's backpack, and a notebook of sketches and sightings he'd been collecting since childhood. The woods breathed colder than the town behind him, as if an unseen boundary had been crossed. Cicadas hummed in an eerie rhythm, almost synchronized like chanting. Evan followed a narrow dirt trail that seemed freshly disturbed, though no one had officially walked here in years, according to the townsfolk. A metallic glint caught his attention near a cluster of moss-covered rocks. He brushed away leaves and unearthed a handheld audio recorder, surprisingly intact despite signs of age, rust and dirt fused into its edges, as if nature had tried but failed to swallow it whole. His heart thumped with a strange mix of hope and dread because the recorder model matched the one his brother used to carry. Evan pressed the power button, expecting silence, but a red light flickered weakly, and a faint whisper emerged, too soft to understand, yet too clear to ignore. It didn't sound like wind distortion or old tape damage. It sounded intentional, like someone whispering directly into his ear from behind, though no one was there when he turned around. He pressed play again, and the whisper strengthened, layered with overlapping voices. Some trembling, some urgent, others almost emotionless, like remnants of thoughts rather than complete speech. The forest around him grew unnaturally still. No rustling leaves, no insect hum, only the sound of air thickening as if it held breath. One word finally surfaced clearly through the static. Run. Ren. Evan stumbled back, pulse racing, but curiosity outweighed fear, and he pressed rewind, needing to hear more, needing something concrete, a clue, anything that could lead him closer to his brother. The device crackled again, and this time another whisper rose slowly, distorted but unmistakably familiar. A voice he had prayed to hear again every single night since the search was called off. Evana. The moment Evan returned home with the recorder, his hands wouldn't stop trembling. Not because of what he heard, but because he recognized the second whisper as his brother's voice, softened by static yet frighteningly clear. He locked his bedroom door, shut the curtains, and turned off the lights so no distraction could interfere with the replay. With headphones on, he pressed play again, expecting the same warnings, but instead the device emitted new sounds he hadn't heard in the forest. Footsteps, rapid breathing, and what sounded like someone running across dry leaves came through, as though the recorder was still gathering sound from somewhere in real time, somewhere the microphone shouldn't, logically, reach. Evan froze when he noticed the footsteps matched the pace of someone running outside his own bedroom window at that very moment, accompanied by faint crunches of leaves on the ground. His ears rang with disbelief, but deep down he knew this was no coincidence. He turned up the volume and listened again, and this time distant voices overlapped, whispering not just his name, but also describing small details from inside his room, like the way his lamp flickered, how he nervously tapped his thumb, and even the color of the notebook resting on his desk. The air inside his room turned colder as he realized the whispers weren't echoes from the past, but lived descriptions from an unseen source, as if someone or something was watching him through a hidden lens or existing in a space he couldn't comprehend. When Evan tried to speak into the recorder, asking who was there, the device answered after a 3-second gap, whispering a sentence that nearly stopped his heartbeat. "We see you too." Even more disturbing was when the recorder suddenly announced an event that hadn't occurred yet, whispering softly, "Don't open the door," just seconds before someone knocked. Evan stared, horrified, as the knocking grew louder, slower, and more intentional with each thud, like whoever stood outside was waiting for the exact moment of hesitation. He remained silent, not daring to move or breathe until the sound finally faded. Only then did he realize the recorder was predicting events, or perhaps influencing them, acting like a twisted channel between two realities. He rewound again and heard a new whisper, one he had not heard previously, telling him that the woods were not done with him, and that something buried beneath the soil was waking up. The recorder's red light blinked faster as if responding to heightened tension, and Evan could no longer tell if this device was a clue or a trap, if it was guiding him or summoning him back into the forest where the whispers first found him. The next evening, unable to sleep and tormented by a mixture of fear, hope, and obsession, Evan convinced his two closest friends, Mia and Jordan, to accompany him back into the woods to unravel what was happening. They armed themselves with flashlights, power banks, and walkie-talkies, not because they believed in the supernatural, but because they needed something that felt like control. Mia was skeptical and irritated, assuming Evan was chasing trauma instead of truth, while Jordan, fascinated by conspiracy theories, was secretly thrilled at the idea of forbidden knowledge waiting to be uncovered. As they retraced Evan's steps, he played the recorder again and followed the whispers like a compass pointing toward an unseen destination. The deeper they moved, the more unnatural the terrain became. Tree trunks looked as if they had been slashed by something metallic, and faint humming vibrations pulsed through the soil, like machinery far beneath the ground. Eventually, they came across a chain-linked fence half buried under vines, attached to rusted poles with faded warning signs that hinted at government ownership. The lettering was barely readable, but one phrase chilled them instantly. A classified research perimeter, do not enter. Jordan argued it was probably just an abandoned bunker from the Cold War, but Mia pointed out that the fence appeared newer than the sign, as if someone had tried to conceal the area instead of preserve it. While debating whether to leave, the recorder unexpectedly emitted a long, high-pitched mechanical tone that was nothing like the whispers they had heard before, followed by a faint metallic, clanging echoing from underground. Jordan noticed a slab of concrete partly buried under dirt and leaves, engraved with numbers instead of words, almost like a code. He uncovered more and found what resembled a sealed hatch door, reinforced with steel bolts but covered in scratches that didn't look like they were made by tools. The recorder clicked and looped a single whispered word repeatedly, below, until its battery indicator, which had been nearly empty earlier, suddenly showed full charge. The air around them felt magnetic, buzzing like static against their skin. Mia insisted they leave immediately, but before they could decide, the ground beneath them vibrated hard enough to knock their breath out, and a gust of cold wind rose from cracks surrounding the hatch, carrying a faint chemical odor mixed with something rotten. Jordan argued that no abandoned site would still have power or air pressure like that, which meant someone or something had either left recently or was still inside. Evan couldn't shake the feeling that this underground place wasn't deserted because it was forgotten, but because it was deliberately buried away from people who might listen to the wrong voices and open the wrong door. Jordan, driven more by curiosity than caution, returned to the site alone the next morning without telling Evan or Mia, believing he could uncover something that would make him famous, or at least validate his fascination with hidden government experiments. He left a brief text to Evan saying he needed to confirm something, assuming his friends would eventually understand, but by the time Evan woke and saw the message, Jordan was already deep inside the woods. When Jordan reached the hatch, the recorder's whispers were no longer needed. He claimed he could hear faint voices without it, as if the air itself vibrated with communication. Meanwhile, Evan and Mia rushed after him, terrified not only because the place was dangerous, but because neither of them could predict what the voices wanted or what they might do to someone who approached willingly. They followed broken branches and disrupted soil as signs of Jordan's path until they reached the hatch, finding it slightly open, even though the bolts had looked impossible to turn the previous day. The moment they peered into the darkness, they noticed Jordan's flashlight lying on the ground beside the entrance, still switched on and flickering, but no sign of him anywhere nearby. Evan shouted his name repeatedly, his voice echoing down the hollow shaft like it was being swallowed, not reflected. A sudden whisper surged from the recorder, even though Evan hadn't turned it on, repeating the same phrase in several overlapping tones. He heard us. Evan, shaking and panicked, lowered himself slightly inside to call again, but Mia grabbed him by the jacket, insisting they leave and find help, arguing that if Jordan had fallen or gotten hurt, they needed authorities and equipment, not reckless bravery. Just then, a voice resembling Jordan's echoed from somewhere inside, but instead of calling for help, it whispered Evan's name with an unnatural calmness that sent ice through both of them. It sounded like Jordan, yet it lacked emotion, as though his voice had been recorded, edited, or hollowed out. The recorder then emitted another whisper layered with static that said, "One stays, one follows," making them realize the voices were not random. They were interactive and manipulative. As Mia pulled Evan away from the hatch, the forest around them began to shift into unnerving silence, not even wind or insects remaining, as if something was listening and choosing its next move. Evan dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by the realization that Jordan hadn't simply gone missing. He had responded to the whispers as if they had called only to him, and whatever was hidden beneath the earth didn't just take him physically, but wanted to claim his will, his mind, and possibly his identity too. Evan and Mia ran back to town to alert the authorities, but every attempt to report Jordan's disappearance was met with unnatural obstacles. Phone lines cut out mid-call, police radios malfunctioned, and when they finally managed to speak with an officer, he dismissed the story as youthful panic and trespassing paranoia. It was clear that either no one wanted to believe them or something was preventing the truth from leaving the forest's boundary. Evan realized that if he wanted answers, he would have to return on his own terms, not as a terrified teenager, but as someone willing to confront whatever force lingered below. He spent hours replaying every whisper, searching for hidden meaning, and eventually noticed that the voices were not random, but layered messages of multiple timelines, bleeding into each other. Some whispers sounded like past victims calling for help. Others felt strangely like commands issued to lure new minds in, while a few carried an eerie resemblance to scientific recordings, almost like psychological testing logs spoken through human consciousness instead of written documents. Eventually, the recorder revealed a chilling sentence that made Evan stop breathing for a moment. "We are not trapped, we are preserved." This implied that the voices remained aware, not as ghosts, but as transferred consciousness, locked between human memory and experimental technology. Digging deeper, Evan found fragments of archived documents inside his brother's backpack, papers he had previously overlooked in grief. They hinted at a classified experiment involving neural frequency mapping and the attempt to digitally preserve human thought. But testing had gone horribly wrong, blending organic consciousness with an unknown transmitted signal found deep beneath the forest ground. These people were not dead, but suspended, unable to separate identity from frequency, forced to communicate through devices capable of receiving their wavelength. Realizing this, Evan understood that Jordan was still mentally reachable, but only through the same dangerous method that trapped him. Mia begged him not to return, insisting he wasn't saving anyone, but offering himself as the next host. Torn between loyalty and survival, Evan decided he could not abandon his brother or Jordan, knowing that cowardice would haunt him far more than any whisper. He returned to the hatch with the recorder in hand, prepared to either rescue them or destroy whatever technology kept them imprisoned. However, before he could make his choice, the whisper shifted tone, no longer pleading but bargaining, promising that if he willingly opened the door, he would not enter as prey but as someone capable of rewriting the outcome. In that moment, Evan realized the true decision was no longer about rescue or escape, but about whether he would allow the forest to remain a sealed tragedy or become a gateway to something far more catastrophic for anyone who dared to listen to the dark voices that never died but evolved.